For the first time since 2019, you can run an NVIDIA GPU on a Mac. Not through a virtual machine, not through a hack, through a real open source driver that talks directly to the GPU over Thunderbolt. I just saw this announcement on Twitter from TinyCorp. Here's a tweet. If you have a Thunderbolt or USB 4 eGPU and a Mac, today is the day you've been waiting for. Apple finally approved our driver for both AMD and NVIDIA. He forgot to mention that you need a NVIDIA or AMD GPU, but I have that too, and we'll test it out. This is pretty exciting stuff. I'm gonna benchmark everything and give you the honest numbers, including the parts that aren't great yet. So a little bit of a backstory. In 2018, Apple and NVIDIA had a falling out. Apple dropped NVIDIA support in macOS Mojave, killing CUDA on Mac entirely, because they went all in on their own metal GPU framework. So for 7 years in the desert, if you want a GPU support NVIDIA compute on your Mac OS, you were out of luck. So then TinyGrad from TinyCorp did something wild. They wrote their own NVIDIA GPU driver from scratch. A Mac OS kernel extension called Tiny GPU. No NVIDIA drivers needed. No Linux needed. You just plug a GPU into your Mac Thunderbolt port, approve the system extension, and it just works. Ugh. Of course, don't forget the GPU. Here's what I'm working with. A Mac Mini with an Apple M4 Pro chip, 64 gigs of memory. I've already done this with 3 GPUs, all Blackwell, RTX 5060 Ti, 5070 Ti, and a 5090. Oh, get out of there. I really hate that little toggle thing on PCI slots. And because I'm so easily influenced, I saw somebody reply to that tweet using this thing, so I went out and bought this. It's actually an Oculink, which I've covered many times before. Cool technology, but if you accidentally unplug that, oh, that's gonna be problematic. They even have a little warning there for you. Don't unplug that while it's running. So I didn't use Oculink today. This is a USB 4 device, and it provides some power to the GPU that you can plug in as well, which works pretty well with GPUs that have the 8-pin connector, 1, 2, or 3 of them. But if you want to use that NVIDIA 12-pin connector, you're gonna need some kind of weird adapter cable. Cross that bridge when I get there. Setup is surprisingly simple. It's all documented here on tinygrad.org. You just run this curl command, enable that driver, shows up under General, Extensions, and there it is, that extension right there for Tiny GPU. You just need to enable this, and you're good to go. Oh, you also need to install Docker Desktop so that it can automatically do the NVIDIA compiler for you. That's this right here. Or if you're using AMD, you would use the HIP compiler. It's simple. And then you just use it. Specify what device you're using, whether you're using AMD, NV, or Metal is one of the options. And then you run the inferencer. So I couldn't wait to get this all set up and running. Seems way too easy. Run the server and you have a little chat interface. Hi. And there it is. It's answering me from the NVIDIA GPU through the Mac. That's incredible. Total setup time, under 5 minutes, especially if you're using an agent to help you out with that. DevLife leaves breadcrumbs all over the internet. Git, bug trackers, test accounts, and data brokers stitch that info into dossiers and sell them. Make yourself harder to find, and you make yourself harder to scam. Once your info gets bundled and sold, it becomes fuel for phishing and identity theft. You can try to remove that stuff manually, but that means tracking every broker, filing every request, and repeating it when your data pops back up. Incogni fires those removal requests automatically and keeps following up until they comply. My dashboard shows hundreds of hits connected to my details, and most of them have already been taken down. And when I find a specific page exposing my info, I use custom removals. I submit the link, and their team handles the takedown and follow-ups. Basically, track it down, get it removed, and keep it from coming back. And that process was also verified by Deloitte. It helps with broker sites and eligible pages, but it's not for things like official records or random social posts. And if you want to test it out first, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go to incogni.com/Alex Ziskind and use code AlexZiskind for 60% off annual and make yourself a smaller target. Link down below. So TinyGrad comes with its own benchmarking suite. It runs inference directly on the GPU with no server overhead. And that matters quite a bit, as I'll show you later on. But I also have a tool that I like to use called Llama Benchy by Yuger over here. It's open source. This benchmark is a full end-to-end experience through the API. PP, prompt processing, TG, token generation, time to first token, and it all includes the HTTP overhead and streaming. It's what the user actually feels. So with the RTX 5060 3060 Ti, I ran my first NVIDIA compute for macOS, and the initial MATMUL matrix multiplication benchmark showed